Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Callison-Burch. I'm an associate professor here in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. My area of research and the class that I teach is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence had a breakthrough moment in November of 2022 when OpenAI released the ChatGPT system. In this video, I'm going to show you how ChatGPT works. ChatGPT is an AI system that can generate text. There are other generative AI systems that can generate images or voices or videos. I'll talk about good uses of generative AI and also give you some cautionary tales on things that you should probably avoid when you're using this system to do your work. Let's start by taking a look at how ChatGPT works. At its core, the way that ChatGPT works is very similar to how your cell phone is doing autocomplete. Given a sentence, it'll try to guess what the next word should be. Here, I've typed the first part of a sentence. My favorite professor at the University of Pennsylvania is Chris Callison. If I press the submit button, I can have the AI system generate the next word. The thing that differs from the AI system and your cell phone's autocomplete is the AI system will continue to predict a series of words that it thinks are likely given the context. It'll write a whole paragraph. So here, it correctly predicts that my name should be Chris Callison-Burch, and it goes on to say many things that are true of me. It says that I'm a professor in the Computer and Information Science Department, and that I specialize in natural language processing. Both of those are correct. And because I have prompted it by saying, my favorite professor, it'll continue writing something that might sound as if it's written by a student who's writing a positive review of me. So it'll say, he is always willing to help his students succeed. Here, I've color-coded the output of the system so we can see that some words it thinks are very, very likely, the ones in green. Some words it thinks are medium likelihood, those are in orange, and some it thinks are not so likely. So here, succeed is actually an unlikely word. So it says that the most likely continuation of that sentence, he is always willing to help his students, would be and. Instead, it's generated something that it thinks is lower probability. It says, I will help my students succeed, which it assigns only about a 1% probability to. One of the interesting things about these models is each time they generate, they'll select words according to these probabilities so that no two times will it produce exactly the same text. So I can rerun this model to say, my favorite professor at the University of Pennsylvania is Chris Callison-Burch, and I'll press this little rerun button, and I'll generate a new output. Now it says that Dr. Callison-Burch is a professor in the CIS department, and it says I'm the director of the Natural Language Processing Lab, and so on. It says that he has been at the University of Pennsylvania since 2006. So this is one of the interesting things that I'd like to highlight about these models. Everything that it says, everything that it outputs, sounds very plausible, but it isn't anchored in fact. I did not start at Penn in 2006. I started in 2013. So a key to understand how to use these kinds of AI systems correctly in your own work is to know that they often produce information that isn't factually correct. If you're going to use AI systems like ChatGPT in a professional context for your work, it's crucially important to understand what they do and what they don't do. This is a cautionary tale published by the New York Times about a lawyer who didn't understand how ChatGPT worked and embarrassed himself in front of the court by submitting a brief that he used ChatGPT to help generate. He wrote his case using ChatGPT, and it generated a lot of things that were not factual. Because they sounded so plausible, he submitted it without actually doing the fact-checking himself. So this case briefing before the court included citations to previous case law that ChatGPT had simply fabricated. It's not that ChatGPT is doing these things maliciously, it's just that it's generating the text the same way that your cell phone is. It's picking words that it thinks are plausible given the context. It's doing no fact-checking. It's not querying the internet to check to see whether something it generated was true or false. It's simply a very sophisticated autocomplete. As a result, you need to be very careful to read through what it's generated and make sure that everything is true. There are other instances where people have used ChatGPT in ways that are inappropriate and cause professional embarrassment. This is an example from Vanderbilt University, who used ChatGPT to write an email to console the students after there was a shooting at another university. This is not exactly the same as the lawyer case because it's not generating false information. It just seems in poor taste. The students reacted negatively because this supposedly comforting message from a staff person was actually just written by a robot. And there seems to be a disconnect between the human emotion that they were trying to convey in this message of comfort in this time of crisis with having a robot do it for you. Despite these cautionary tales, I think that there are many circumstances in which using ChatGPT and other AI tools is perfectly acceptable and can enhance your productivity in your work. I'll show off some examples of tools that I think are quite interesting and exciting that could potentially be integrated into your own workflow.